So, hey guys, welcome back to Babbling Zoom. It's been a while. Had a lot to do. Busy summer. Um, so I kind of wanted to talk about this one thing. Let me switch over to this. Uh, really have to talk about this. A lot about babbling, so sorry for the weirdness. Okay, so while back. Actually, it probably is in here. About a year ago. Wow, it was a year ago. Um, I saw this video about from Comic Drake about the new reboot of Static Shock. I heard about Milestone Comics rebooting, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." I've actually never read any of the Milestone comics, um, but I knew about the Static Shock show. Cool, no problem. Um, but when I saw this whole thing about how everyone's mad about it, I was like, "All right, I'm intrigued. What's going on?" Now, no, this is kind of like after the wake of the Black Lives Matters movement and all this sort of stuff. And I'm not big into a lot of the push for, I love diversity and everything, but sometimes when it's heavy handed, it sucks. So when I found out about how they changed the origin of how they just changed the origin of Static Shock, it kind of irked me, right? The fact that like it went from Virgil kind of going to grabbing a gun and then going to, no, I'm basing this off of the TV show. At the time I watched the TV show. So I hear about this change and I'm like, but isn't like what the comic did the same thing too, right? What's going on, right? Why are we changing it from Virgil going to a gang meet that gets raided by the cops to a Black Lives Matter march that gets raided by the cops? It made no sense. Why are we changing this origin story? And it's one of those things where it's like, no matter how many times I get angry about it, it's just like no one's listening, right? The main thing that made me mad about all of this, and I think what made a lot of people mad, is that it's near impossible for any other character. I mean, well established, I'm going to pull the white card, sorry, white characters to have their entire backstory change. Even if everything is updated, the exact same things will happen. Superman, no matter what time, what decade he's in, will always leave kryptonite as it explodes, lands on the Kent farm, and then grow up in small town America. That's it. Nothing will change him. That is how he is established. He is taking the concept of small town America and bringing it into the bigger world, the quaint, calm peacefulness of small town America, and bringing it into America as a whole. That's his frame of thought. That's how he goes into it. Batman, his entire thing is, we were walking down this one alley, my parents got shot because of gang or violence in my city. I need to stop this. That one incident of his parents getting gunned down because of a robbery spurred Bruce Wayne to actually stop violence in Gotham. Simple as that. How so simple as that? Iron Man, he got caught by terrorists that used his own weapons. He realized he needs to stop creating weapons and actually do something about it. Right? How hard it never changes. The Hulk, experiment gone wrong, made him to a Hulk. Captain America, World War II experiments that beefed him up, You got cat in the snow, boom. So old world thinking and new world and a new world, right? These are simple concepts of what these characters are. Maybe some things have changed, but they've changed in, there's certain things that might have changed, like Thor's original story of the concept of a man that gained the power of Thor, like Shazam, and then eventually became just the god himself coming to Earth, right? But that happened well before movies, TV show, any of that stuff, right? By this point with Static Shock, he is a well-established character. Everyone knows him because the TV show established his origins. Done. So why do we need to change his origin? What does that what messes up the character? So I spoke my piece, and the major thing that everyone kind of harped on me was, oh, you're just a fan of the comics, of the cartoon. You never actually read the Milestone comics. You have nothing to say about that. I'm like, the Milestone comics should be the exact same thing, right? So let me stop my sharing for a second. So I am big again. What did I do? After some time of looking around, trying to figure out if I could find it, I tried to find Static. Couldn't find Static. I had to get like one of the companions. I had the entire Milestone comic books. This is only one of, I don't know how many is going to come out. Reluctantly, I paid the 50 something, $60 for this thing. I think I got it on discount actually. Yeah, I think I got this on a discount on Amazon or something. And I'm not truly done with it. I'm a slow reader, so I'm halfway. I'm like halfway in. I'm reading Zombie, part of the next part of the Zombie run. But has a ton of all the Milestone stuff, which then opened my eyes to what truly the Milestone comics were. Milestone comics, I think, in a way, is what Marvel and DC editors want to happen in their comics. They've been fighting to do this with continuity all this time. The constant fighting between the writer having to be constrained in their storytelling because someone else is also doing a story involving a character. In a way, Milestone basically perfected that, but it also did something very fascinating for me that I didn't realize. Again, I'm not done it yet. Milestone, I don't know if anyone's seen Gotham, the Fox TV show Gotham. As much as most fans hate it, they have to understand what it really did. It created a space for characters to run around in and like make the world live like alive. That's what I like about the Dakotaverse, just Dakota itself. Every single person has a part, has a place that they live in, and shows an aspect of Dakota. And everyone knows about each other in some way or fashion. Words are, even when one person is introduced, the next comic talks about this person that is. Some people interact. It surprisingly is really good. But what I didn't expect, here's the part that really got me. We're going to talk about another YouTuber actually. What I didn't expect was the lack of Black pandering to its readers. Let me share again. What Comic Drake brings up in this short little thing, I'm going to eventually buy at least comic 1 of Static Shock because I really want to focus on this. I want to actually truly understand this. But what Comic Drake mentions in this is the fact that this entire thing started based on a Black Lives Matter. The new comic starts with Black Lives Matter, which kind of diminishes Static as a person. Blurred Without Fear dives deeper into a lot of the Milestone characters and the new comics now, which is awesome, right? But as I watched his take, the new take on these characters, while reading the old take on these characters, I noticed a very big distinction that the new version of the characters are playing into Black pride, Black pride, and the current events that's happening now. And that's, I think, where the old Milestone actually wins in this, right? Should I show the comic or should I just show pictures of this thing? All right, so here's an example. I think they're still using the concept of like Dakota as the framework for everything, but they're not. I don't think they're doing it the way they should be. So let me switch over here. Let's see if I can show Hardwire. Okay. So obviously I had to wait. Like I'm reading this Milestone thing, and I was wanting to read Static, but I was first introduced to Hardwire. I think that's which I was just like, okay, great, cliche 90s, big action, crazy amount of things, whatever. And then I really started getting into it. Because what I started noticing about Milestone is they don't pander to the basic tropes of what is always shown in Black media. We're not talking about going up against a white man. We are not talking about surviving the hood. We're not focusing on all that stuff. We're not about Black empowerment. That stuff, like the new stuff is. Oh my goodness, the new stuff. From what I've been hearing, the new stuff is. But this took a different approach. This kind of, I feel, looked like the psyche of people in a weird way. Like, Hardware starts off with just like that, as Blurred says, as Iron Man. it's a Black Iron Man, but it takes the approach of a guy working for a bigger business as opposed to the CEO. And after not getting his raise or something he was looking for, he takes it out on his boss by exposing the true villainy of his boss. And what's great about this character is it's not about the monster that he fights, but the monster of his personality. He's a man who thinks he deserves more. He's actually not a great character. He's a jaded person who only cares about himself. It is not about the man. The entire story is not about fighting the man, the white man that controls him. It's about fighting his demons, about the fact that he gave up what was being Black to be what was his past, to be who he is, how he's just such a jaded person. And even if he is doing good, he's doing it for the wrong reasons, which is beautifully played out when we first meet his pseudo love interest, who she just calls him out for what he is. And it was the most amazing moment in this comic. I was like, oh my goodness, really? That's perfect. And then later, I went to this whole, like the second part of the second part of it where he had to do like an introspective of himself, of like what he is. Wow. It was not about Black versus white. It was not about being put down, the struggles of Black America. This was about the struggles of a man and how he lost himself. Perfect. Let's see if we can find icon. I'm trying to find icon. Actually, I wish I had icon and rocket. There we go. That's a better picture. It's not a better picture, but icon and rocket are amazingly cool, right? I think this is off a beat, because we're supposed to get the Blood Syndicate, but like this is awesome too. Like the concept of a guy who has the power to do something and doesn't do it. The classic pull yourself off your bootstraps guy. You know what I'm saying? It's a black man, it's a successful black man who thinks that all black people have to do is pull themselves up. What? This is amazing. A man who spoilers anyway, a man who has the exact same story as Superman. Alien, crash lands on the planet. This time he turns into the form of a baby, but at the time of slavery, he grew up as a slave and he kept changing his name to different generations of himself to be a really successful person. And he didn't do anything with it. You know why? Because he probably doesn't see himself as black. He's an alien. He grew up different. He didn't have the wholesome Americana life that Clark Kent had. He had the life of a slave, and he saw the struggles of Black America. And probably while seeing the struggles of Black America, he wasn't like the small percent that fought to try and get us where we are. He followed the crowd and didn't do anything. Fascinating. So when it comes to when Rocket shows up in the picture, she's the one who pushes him to do something. He doesn't do anything. He's pushed to be a hero because he thinks that Black people should just work hard and become. Wow, that's messed up. I expected pillars of blackness, and I'm reading this comic and you're actually seeing real Black people. We're not getting Martin Luther King. We're getting the guy on the street in every single one of these characters. I don't know if they have Blood Syndicate in here. So let me just click on here. There you go. Blood Syndicate. Just a gang. They haven't really done anything in this comic. I've only read the first arc of Blood Syndicate. And what basically Blood Syndicate really does for you is explains why the Big Bang happened in the first place. And it ties into the entire world. It's so awesome how this happened. How this whole event is basically reminiscent of the old 70s movie, 70s or 80s movie, the Warriors. Essentially, so the Warriors happened, and then a raid happened. The very first act of the Warriors happened, and it went fully south. And it was amazing how all of this kind of ties into it, and how even the problem with the new one is like the cops are, and like here's the problem. I think the problem with the new version of the Big Bang approaches it like the cops knew they were out to get the Black people. They were out to get, it was white cops versus Black protesters is how I feel like the new one is approaching it. When actuality, it's just the entities that are cops versus the gangs. Simple as that, right? And then on top of that, the cops are also affected in the older comics. They didn't even know what was in the gas. They were also affected. They thought they were doing something normal. And then it went south. And that's when you're introduced to a third party. It had nothing to do with the cops. It had nothing to do with the gangs. It had something to do with the higher power. Which, surprising, I think, is half the time that half the things that we don't actually pay attention to is the cops are trying to do their job, as some of them are really bad at it. Black people are trying to survive, even though some people react the wrong way. Or in other words, or let me put it this way, not everyone is perfect. Not every moment where a cop shoots a black man is the cop's fault. I know you're going to be mad at me for that, but truth. But the reality is, the reason why all this gang stuff is going, why all this is problem, why we're yelling at each other, we're not paying attention to the court system. That's not working. Politics. Moving on. But Blood Syndicate also does something that's really awesome. You think Milestone Comics is about just black characters, and Blood Syndicate is a mix of Latino, of black, Asian, like it is the comic of minorities. Perfect, right? And even at one point, I think his name's Hot Streak. Not Hot Streak. Hot Streak is the other guy. There's one character in the first arc that just says, "I'm done with this," and leaves. And you can feel he's becoming a bad guy later. Darn it, what's his name? I want to look it up now. Holocaust. There it is. Holocaust, the big guy in the front here. He ends up leaving the Blood Syndicate, which then leads me into the next part. And the part that we're all here for, right? Let's be honest here. I look for the original sign. Static Shock. Static. Okay, so this is where I came. This is why I bought this entire book for the reason for. This is the entire reason why I bought this ridiculously huge book, Static. I bought it for Static, and I started going in. Like by this point, every comic has now set me up for this moment. It's in this beautiful way. It's told me the world of Dakota, where everything stands, who everyone is, and everyone's problems. Blood Syndicate's problem, I forgot, was kind of just not leaving. They're still in this gang mentality of protecting the turf. And that's what Holocaust is pissed off at, and he leaves. And yeah, you're still stuck in that mindset. A lot of these people are kind of still stuck in this mindset when you first start this comic book. They're not perfect. They're people. So when you're introduced to Static having the powers, again, this is after the fact of the bang, you're introduced to the classic Static, cocky, confident, doing all this stuff until he runs into Hot Streak. And when he sees Hot Streak, I'm saying PTSD, but it's basically like the gut reaction of a child being beaten up by a bully constantly instantly happens. Oh my goodness. He reverts back to just Virgil. And that's where the true story comes in, where it's just about a kid who is bullied to the point where he wants to change, where he's told by his friends, and he has friends. Oh my, the friends he's got. It's not the one guy trope of every TV show. It's like, look, here's a superhero. Here's the one friend that he hangs out with or she hangs out with. Oh my goodness. He's got a group. He's got a network of friends that all hang out like regular people. Again, I'm going to keep saying this over and over and over again. But this is where it gets like amazing, because Virgil is now a person. Static is a person who has trauma. That trauma led to why he became Static. He was a kid just like the original, just like the comics, just like the cartoon. He was a kid who was driven by bullying. That's it. The entire reason why he is Static Shock is because of bullying. He was bullied in school, pushed to the point where a friend suggested a gun, get rid of the bully, or he'll continue bugging you. And then when he showed up to the Big Bang, he had the opportunity and said, I'm not this person. That is static. A person who's not willing to go down that road. That's the character of Static Shock. Not a person who just went to a Black Lives Matter rally and then got gassed. That just means you're politically aware, but it doesn't show you the intent of why you do things. This old Static, this original Static, his entire life was focused on being bullied, being the wisecrack that got himself in trouble, that all that stuff. And then later, when you're reintroduced beautifully to Holocaust, it hammers home one of the other things, the stress of being a child, a Black child, losing your job, bullying, again, by his sister, my goodness. The struggles of just keeping friendships and not just trying to make a living. And when Holocaust gives him basically the plate of desire of this is what you can be if you go dirty, and he says no, it's the exact same thing like the beginning. You can make it easy on yourself if you pull the trigger. No. You can make it easy on yourself if you just partner up with me and make money and get with women. Nah, I'm not that way. He stays true to himself. The last person they bring up is, I have to look it up now because it's not here. Zombie. There you go. Which totally threw me for a loop after reading all the other stuff, right? Because what I didn't expect from Zombie was the fact that here's a character who is, I think, Asian character. No Black character is involved in this. Again, I thought Milestone was about Black characters. And Blood Syndicate proved me wrong. Zombie proved me wrong again. Right? Story about Asian, what was it? Asian scientist. I think it's Asian. I could be wrong. Whose entire life goes upside down because of this weird cultish supernatural world that attacks his facility, and he ends up becoming immortal because of it. And in that, it's this great look into, dare I say, Cthulhu, no, Lovecraftian, or that's the word I'm trying to look, where it's just like all these crazy ideas, all these crazy monsters just permeate in this world that no one else knows about, right? Again, I am not done. Stop sharing. Again, I am not done this comic book. I'm like halfway through. And I've got back into Zombie again. But again, these themes talk about just people. They're not trying to be politically charged. They're really just focusing on what people are. Zombie's whole thing is grief. After a whirlwind of supernatural, just all these supernatural things, you really focus on the fact that he just lost a friend. That's really where the whole story is. You know, as I get into the second part, we're still focusing on as we get to the second part of this, where am I? I'm here in the comic. So as we get to this part of it, it's still focusing on what grief is. you know, even though we're still dealing with the monster of the week, grief, you know, there's this thing about blurb, blurb without fear. That's it. When you start, I watched the recent video about the last, what was it, 3 and 4 of Hardware, and how, I'm not going to knock him on this. He loves the comic. He's praising the fact that they're using strong Black women in this scene and Hardware's life to help him through this situation, which I think is just pandering to the people. Like, it's just pandering. Let's put it that way. The concept of what strong Black women are and just showing it. I get it. I understand that. But what I loved about the original comics is they didn't have to do that. Just in her actions and in the actions of another character, you feel the strength. You feel a woman who's not swooming at the main character to say, are you okay? She's giving him truth so he could rethink about it, rethink it. And I'm hoping she comes back. I don't know the comics again. I'm hoping she comes back and they introduce a second strong Black female who does the same thing of like, I am not a girl, I'm a woman. You're not listening to me because I'm a woman. She's showing that she is strong too. The second character. And in doing so, he learns a lesson. Again, it's not a woman preaching to him. Yeah, so we're not a woman preaching to him. It's the actions of the woman that makes him step back. It's the time of him reflecting on who a character is, who he is, that makes him realize, I'm going down the wrong path. I need to wake up. And these women are helping me think. Actually, if you really think about that, that's the most fascinating part of it. Hardware has two Black women in his lives who constantly, one who knows who he is and tells him he's a fool for what he's doing, for the mentality that he's doing, or the reasoning behind he's doing it, while another one is coming as young and coming up on her own and still is just as powerful as him. What is it? Rocket is the reason why Icon is Icon. She's the reason why he is a hero. And she's the eyes he needs to see the world. I think it's Frida for Static Shock is his only confidant. And note that like all these characters aren't love interests. Oh, especially the Static one. That was but that's what this is great about. Like, what I love about this, the new one, we have to make sure Hardware has a love interest and is dating someone, blah, blah, blah. No one is dating in these comics. I'm halfway through the comic and no one is dating. They're just people. They're friends. They're colleagues. They're nothing else. They're not pandering. They are writing people. They wrote, people. I can't wait to get the next one. I am so happy I took this dive, and I'm going to eventually buy Static #1 to see what the difference is. I'm not knocking the art in the new ones I've been seeing is really good, especially Hardware. Like, harken back to the original copy, original art. But the stories, I'm worried. I'm worried that we lost what the charm that is Milestone, as I'm learning what Milestone is for the first time. And I can't stop telling my wife how awesome these books are. But because like the youth now haven't read these books, yes, may be cringy. It's the 90s. Everything in the 90s was really messed up and horribly bad costumes. But the storytelling in this surpasses 90s cringe. This is what you need to read. This is what Black comics should be. It shouldn't be pandering. It should be writing true stories of people, even if they're Black, Latino, Asian, whatever. This is good writing. Hope you got a chance to read it. And tell me what you think. Do you like the new stuff? Should I read the new stuff? But thanks for joining me. I'll come back with another rant somewhere sooner or later.